What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today is a celebration of the Titanium Vault. 6 years I've been recording this podcast. What an unbelievable ride it's been. I have been blessed to be able to interview some of the biggest names in wholesaling, real estate investing, and just quite frankly, entrepreneurship, which was the goal when I set out to start the Titanium Vault. I wanted to unlock the secrets to real estate investing and entrepreneurship. And I'll be honest with you, these 6 years have been a blast. Getting to ask some of the most talented, most charismatic characters in all of entrepreneur and real estate investing. I mean, just essentially getting to sit there and suck all of the information out of them and learn on the fly, not only on how to be a better real estate investor or wholesaler or entrepreneur, but also how to be a better damn podcast host. I mean, when I got started into this, I had zero following. I had like 370 friends on Facebook. I didn't even have an Instagram. YouTube was an afterthought. TikTok wasn't even a thing yet. Now we're posting across all of those platforms. We have anywhere between 20 to 30,000 followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call it, on all of those different platforms. And I've been allowed to speak on stages in front of thousands of different real estate investors, wholesalers, entrepreneurs to share our story. And we literally have shared our journey from essentially the beginning. Cassie and I were already relatively successful as entrepreneurs and real estate investors, but we weren't sharing it with anybody. We were keeping it all to ourselves. And I said, I want to give back to the real estate investing community because it changed our lives. That's why I wanted to start that Titanium Vault. And it has been such an incredible journey. So today's episode, we're going to share some of the highlights, some of the greatest clips that I can remember, some of the best interviews, and give my feedback about those. And the first clip I'm going to share is on the first ever episode of the Titanium Vault was with Daniel Moore from Propelio. Here's how this came about. I said, I'm going to start a podcast. I went and bought a microphone, got a laptop, got everything that I needed, right? Got a logo because you have to have a logo, right? And then I didn't have any guests. So I went on Facebook with my 300 friends and I said, who wants to be on my podcast? And a couple of friends said, I do, which I knew them. So I said, okay, cool. I don't want to interview you on the first episode, though. The first episode, because I know it's not going to be that great. Because here's the thing. I never listened to a podcast before recording this podcast. Never. I had only been a guest on 2 podcasts ever. So I didn't know much about podcasting when I got started. So Daniel Moore says, I'd love to be on. I didn't know anything about Daniel Moore. Come to find out, he's this 7-8 figure real estate investor who owns a software company. And I didn't even know how to introduce him. So with our first clip, here's my introduction on the first ever Titanium Vault episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, that's right. All it was a static image with the audio.
All right, excited to have Daniel Moore on the Titanium Vault today. Daniel, how are you doing?
Doing excellent, man. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Daniel is the co-founder of Propelio, and we're going to go into more about that later on in the episode. But Daniel, first I want to start off with talking about what it is you do in real estate investing and how you got started.
Well, currently right now I'm sourcing and looking predominantly for 7-figure plus deals. I mean, I'm looking for the really big properties where I can only do, 1 or 2 a year, but pull a really good return. Like I just closed a 60,000 square foot commercial warehouse. I'm under contract right now for an eight-figure deal of a land property. So I'm really looking for a land investment on that one. But really anything that's a much bigger deal where I can pull a 7-figure return. That's where I'm focusing right now.
So I'm pretty sure at that point in time, my brain is spinning. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Here I am, and I have my first ever podcast interview. I am interviewing a guy talking about taking down an 8-figure commercial land deal, and he owns a software company, a nationwide software company. Shout out to Daniel Moore. He's been a huge supporter for years now. He gave us the opportunity to have our own show on Propelio TV, which really boosted my brand and the Titanium brand. And shout out to Daniel for just fighting through that first ever interview there. So from that first episode, what we did is I started interviewing a bunch of local buddies, people that I had known. Cassie and I went to our first ever mastermind in Fresno, California. We met some people there. I interviewed them. Really good episodes. I started loosening up a little bit. And then we had our first ever charity golf tournament, the Titanium Golf Classic, where all the proceeds go to benefit Beat Kids Cancer, our nonprofit here, benefiting childhood cancer research. And we met Austin Good, the late, great Austin Good. Became a really good friend of mine and Cassie's. He's no longer with us. And I miss you every day, buddy. I really do. And the first time I really got to spend time with him was during our podcast. And I got to know who Austin Good was. And I got to realize how humble he was. You look at him, naturally you wouldn't think he was a humble guy, right? Multi-millionaire, good looking, ripped, beautiful wife, great life. You just wouldn't have said that man's humble, but he was one of the most humble spirits I've ever met. He would take hours upon hours to help you just underwrite a deal that he had no skin in the game for. That's the kind of guy Austin Good was. And I learned it right here because he's talking about his first ever big deal, the deal that really made Austin Good the kind of real estate investor that he was. It was this new development duplexes that he built up. He essentially built a neighborhood, and they were build to rent duplexes. This is him talking about that deal here.
It was a 72 unit, was a street basically in Denton with 36 duplex lots, of which they had already built 5. So there was 10 units already built and leased out. And their development note for putting in the roads and utilities and buying the land was about to come due. And he's like, well, I'm willing to put money into it. However, they're not willing to put money into it. So we're kind of at a standstill. So I was like, okay. I evaluated it. And again, I didn't really know how great of a deal it was at the time. And he kind of had to actually convince me. And looking back, I'm like, man, he's trying to talk me into such a great deal. But
man, Austin, I miss you. Miss you every day, buddy. Like I said, just such a humble spirit and always downplaying what he was doing. And then all of his buddies, he talked so highly of them. He would always pump you up and talk about how great you were. That episode right there, I'll never forget. When that one went out, of course, everyone here in Dallas-Fort Worth knew Austin. That's when the Titanium Vault really started gaining some momentum, gaining some traction here locally. People started listening and saying, hey, RJ, man, you're pretty good at this podcasting thing. I really like the way you ask questions, and you're really pulling stuff out of your guests. And I started, enjoying it, and I wanted to broaden out and find more people. And the first person that I found that is now just a mega star in the real estate investing and the wholesaling space was Maxwell. Max reached out to me and he said, hey, man, I want to be a guest on your podcast. And at the time, his Facebook group, Wholesaling Houses Elite, which now has hundreds of thousands of members, only had 4,000 people in the group. And I remember when I interviewed Max, how charismatic he was and how well he carried himself. And again, humble spirit, kind of downplaying himself. And when I got started in the podcast, I wasn't comfortable enough to be completely organic like I am right now, right? Just turn on some lights, turn on a camera and say, hey, let's go, baby. I don't care if I stumble or bumble. I wasn't that confident. So I gave myself an outline, kind of a script. And remember, scripts suck. But I gave myself a little bit of a script. It was, who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? And why do you do it? That was pretty much the flow of every Titanium Vault episode when I got started. And so I got to the end of Max Maxwell's interview. And I asked Max the question I asked everybody before that. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Here's his answer.
Where do you want to take your business in the next 5 years?
5 years, I think if we get to a $5 million a year wholesaling company, I think we can do that between 1 and 2 states. Then I'll be happy. I would look to get my staff up to around 12 people and really, pull down $5 million in assignment fees in every year.
Is that increasing by $1 million a year? Is that kind of the stair step?
So yeah, exactly. Each year. So we're on pathway to do $1 million in the next 12 months.
Right.
So if anybody's watched my YouTube channel, my goal was to get to $100,000 every month. We're closing on 85 this month. So with us growing in that direction, we're really looking to keep that increase going. And once we're able to, because our systems are great, but you can always improve your systems. Right. So once we're able to improve our systems and spend more money in marketing and be more aggressive, then I think that each year we should be able to go up by $1 million.
I love hearing that, because if you don't know who Max Maxwell is now, and that was 5 years ago, okay? That interview was 5 years ago. So here we are, Max. Here's our temperature check if you achieved your 5-year goals. You no longer live in the United States. You've moved to Dubai, and you live with your wife over there, and you're living the life of your dreams as far as what I could tell on social media. You've become a pilot. Your Facebook group blew up to a couple 100,000. You have a couple 100,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, and you're known across the board as one of the most influential characters in the wholesaling real estate space. And that episode, I remember the morning that went out, Max tagged me, shared it on Instagram, and just a wave of followers came my way. And that Max Maxwell's interview really blew up the Titanium Vault, similar to how it did with Steve Trang and Real Estate Disruptors. So both me and Steve have a ton of gratitude towards Max for being a guest on our podcast and helping us expand our reach and our brands. Moving on to the next gentleman that came on the Titanium Vault. He changed the way that I always do my pre-show kind of chat before we start recording, because when we started, I said, hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III. And today I'm sitting down with Tim Bratz. And he says, it's Bratz. And I said, well, that's embarrassing. Pause. And I restarted it. And so forevermore, even if I know the people, I always ask, how do I say your name? Tim Bratz, quite possibly net worth-wise, is one of the biggest guests that I've ever had on here. This guy owns thousands of doors in the multifamily space, and I got him to come on the Titanium Vault early on before he had really exploded. It was right when he was taking off, like the rocket ship was just taking off. I actually went to Cleveland with Austin Good to learn about multifamily investing. And so everything that I know about multifamily investing came from Tim Bratz. But some of the biggest takeaways that I had from Tim was his ability to raise private capital. And I thought the feedback that he gave here on his interview about, hey, Tim, what are some ways to raise private capital? Because let's be honest, I don't know many guests or many real estate investors that have raised more private capital than Tim Bratz, and he still does it to this day. I see him, he hosts webinars, he talks about his project, he raised millions and millions of dollars. Here's his answer on the best way to raise private capital.
It's chicken or egg kind of thing. Like, how do I do a deal if I don't have access to money? And what I did is I just partnered up with people who had money, gave them a lot of the equity in the project. And but you got to be good at finding good deals. Like, there needs to be enough juice in the squeeze in order to do that. And going to the different RIA, Real Estate Investors Associations, you'll find some of the people. Some of them are really good, some of them are junk. But you're going to find some people who are doing some things in that avenue, or people who at least know people. Getting plugged into the any sort of real estate associations, finding people on Facebook, social media who are doing real estate in your market, and the best private lenders. That I'm not saying necessarily that they're the best private lenders, but they're good people to start partnering with. Saying, hey, I'll be on your team. You don't have to pay me other than on the back end of the deal, and I'll do all the work. And by making that kind of a commitment to them, they'll go out and raise the money. And then that builds your track record. Now, once you have a track record, then you go call up your CPA. Dude, my CPA has referred so many private lenders to me because they know everybody who's got money and who needs write-offs and who needs more income and has some cash set aside. Like, CPAs are phenomenal with that.
So, again, now Tim Bratz running his own education platform for multifamily investors. And like I said, he just changed the way I always do my pregame show. I'll never forget you, Tim. Good friend, good mentor, great real estate investor. A lot to look up to with Tim there. Next guest that just absolutely blew my mind and was quite possibly one of the most difficult interviews that I've ever had. 230 plus interviews, episodes of the Titanium Vault. Definitely one of the most difficult interviews because she was so high level. And she wasn't just a real estate investor. She is, by all definitions, a great entrepreneur. And at the time, she was building the brand. She was getting started. She wanted to be on more podcasts. So I took the chance to bring her on because, again, the goal here was to unlock the secrets to real estate investing and entrepreneurship. So I said, I'll absolutely bring Cody Sanchez in. Cody now is just so influential. I mean, her TikTok, her Instagram, she has hundreds of thousands of followers on there. And she talks about buying boring businesses, which I absolutely love because 5 years ago, I asked Cody, where do you want to be in 5 years? And now I can actually sit here and look to see that what she outlined is everything that she's achieved to this point.
Journal going back to 2012, where I've written out every year what my goals are for 1, 3, and 5 years. It's pretty cute when you look back and you think what your goals were, and then you're like, oh, God, I kind of achieved a lot of them. It's a cool feeling. And so when I wrote them down this year, my ideal life is one where I work when I want, where I want, on what I want, and with whom I want. And so in 5 years, my ideal goal is that I've instituted that I've created systems around me in order to be able to focus on the aspects of my business that I love, to be able to outsource the things that are energy drainers, not energy adders, and to be able to continue to grow and build really game-changing companies.
Boy, she wrote that down in that journal, and she went out and she achieved it. Now she's out there. She's teaching people. She speaks to the masses about how to go buy boring businesses, how to create that life. where essentially you're not dealing with those energy drainers like she's talking about, and she's really going out and just creating kick-ass companies like she wanted to do. Again, it's probably the interview that I am most proud of on my side of things, because I felt like I got information out of Cody when Cody was at a different level, on a whole nother scale from me. And she killed it in that interview, and moving forward the next 5 years, she's grown as an entrepreneur, and now she's out there helping, like I said, millions and millions of people. The next person I want to talk about is the most listened to interview in Titanium Vault history, downloads wise, not just YouTube, but we're talking about Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Pandora, everywhere where we're out. This is the most listened to interview, partially just due to the fact that I did really good SEO on it. If you can't wholesale after this, we've got nothing for you. That's straight up a ripoff of his book, Mr. Todd Fleming. He's been on the podcast twice with both of his book releases. He had just released his book, If You Can't Wholesale After This, I've Got Nothing For You. His mission is to help people have financial security. And he lives by that, and I've seen it time and time again, go out and help the masses. I absolutely loved having Todd on both times. He's a great interview. Listen to his purpose and his drive.
Absolutely, yeah. My life's purpose, with every fiber of my being, my life's purpose is to leave this world a more financially secure place than when I came into it. And I want more people to be able to pursue their life's purpose without having to fund it through a traditional job. I think the world would be a better place because of that. It wasn't that long ago that there was an agreement between government and the land and people that if you work for 40 years, we'll take care of you. You can have the house, the 2.5 kids, the dog, the white picket fence, right? That was the agreement. And you never have to worry about anything. Information age hits, 2000. Deal's off. Deal's off, right? I'm watching people plunder into bad debt that they can never get out of, looking for multiple bankruptcies, people finding and looking at money as fulfillment or thinking it's fulfillment, and then even possibly receiving it, realizing it's not fulfillment, and then being even worse off because of it, when in reality, money is a tool, and it will just magnify who we truly are already.
Like I said, both of his interviews are extremely impactful. His books, If You Can't Wholesale, If You Can't Cash Flow After This, I've Got Nothing For You, are great books. I actually got to pre-read and write a review for his second book. Love both of Todd's interviews and love what he stands for and his passion for helping people. That's an alignment we definitely have. After that, I attended Maxwell's We Live here in Dallas, and I got to watch Gary Vaynerchuk speak his keynote speech there, and he talked about the power of video. And that's right, I got rid of the static images on YouTube, and I said, let's go buy a $100 webcam and let's start recording myself, because to be quite frank, guys, I was scared of lights and camera. I know it's crazy. The guy that goes live for 8 hours a day, calling sellers, been on national, had a TV show on A&E, all of these things. I got rid of that fear. I overcame that and said, no, I'm going to make this a superpower of mine. I went and bought a webcam. One of the first interviews I did on camera was with my buddy, Aaron Bevins. And for those of you that follow me on social media, you know I love to give Aaron a hard time, but I truly do believe the kid is gifted. He's going to impact millions because he's got a heart of gold. And this was 4 years ago. I asked him about his 5-year goal, and this was his answer.
I used to ask this one on every episode, and I haven't asked it in a long time.
I'm ready.
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Man, that's a really good. So, wow, it is so interesting that you bring this up because the company and the brand that we're building right now, it's gone through an entire restructuring, right? And a lot of it is because, whenever you're first getting started, you don't know exactly, where you want to go, but you don't know exactly what to do in the beginning, right? So we've done an entire restructuring of our business. And I've been thinking about that specific question over the past week or so. Where do I want to be? And this is what I come up with in terms of the business. I would like to have executives handling the business from A to Z, right? That means watching all of the production, handling all of the marketing, making sure everybody is paid. I mean, they are running the business. Mm-hmm. And and I speak to them and only to them, right? And I'm talking one or two people. Like, these are the only people that I speak to. I don't speak to the employees. I don't speak, and it's not a level of status why, oh, I don't speak to you. You know what I mean? It's not that. It's time.
It's always about time. I love Aaron. At that point in time, he's very young and early on in his entrepreneur journey. Now I see he's partnered up with Quentin Flores. Just spoke at their incredible event, Growth, down in San Antonio earlier this year. Probably 400 or 500 people there. They have mentees across the country that they're helping. In fact, we have a co-mentee, someone that attended the Titanium Crucible and attended their mentorship program, that they're going live every single day on Facebook with the goal of acquiring $250,000 in assignments fees in 90 days using $0 marketing. Incredible to see Aaron's growth over the past 4 years. Can't wait to see where he goes. I don't know if he's there on his 5-year goals or not, but I know he's close, and I know he's doing what he wants to do. I can see the passion and the joy and everything that he does. Excited to see where he goes in the next 5 years. We might have to get Aaron back on the podcast soon. The next guest is post 2020 Closers Olympics. Okay. So I've done the 50-50-50. I'm now bringing on guests. I've kind of added some graphics. I got StreamYard. We're becoming a real YouTube podcast at this point in time. And what also happened is I ran out of friends to interview. So now I actually had to be a good interviewer because I started interviewing people I didn't know. But out of all the people that I've interviewed that I didn't know, this guy was probably the guy I was most excited about because he was a former professional hockey player. At the time, my son was 7 years old. And I asked my son, what do you want me to ask this former professional hockey player? Well, here you go. Mr. Bob LaChance.
I get people come in and they talk about real estate investing and everything that they're doing, but very rarely do I get the opportunity to talk to a former professional hockey player. And I played hockey my whole life. My son plays hockey. I think I'm probably the only quote unquote podcaster, influencer, whatever you want to call it, that would actually put an hour-long video of his son playing hockey on his YouTube channel like I did. But I was so excited. He actually scored his first hat trick in American Airlines Center where the Dallas Stars play this past winter. So I was so proud of him. I had to throw it on there for everybody to see. I was talking to my son this morning at breakfast, and I told him, hey, I'm interviewing a former professional hockey player, and I told him my first question would be, if you had any advice for someone who's obsessed with hockey, like my 7-year-old son, what advice would you give him?
I would give him to work hard and have fun. And I think both of those go in the same kind of sentence because, you hear people say, whoa, just have fun. Well, I've realized coaching kids and coaching, adults as well is the harder they work, the more fun they have. It's pretty interesting.
Right.
We have some people that say, hey, just have fun. Guess what? If you just have fun is really, it's conducive to the work ethic that you put into it.
So Bob doesn't know this, but I went back and I told Trinity that. I said, Bob said, work hard and have fun. And when my son gets told something like that, from someone that has achieved the goals that he wants to achieve, he holds it as truth. And he does that every single day. So thank you, Bob, for those words. Also, Bob was a great interview. We talked about his virtual assistant business and how he impacts a ton of real estate investors in super impactful interview. Now we're getting to the point where I'd been doing the podcast for a while. And it was starting to get to the point where interviewing became repetitive. And I felt like I sometimes was taking the stage away from my guests because I had things that I wanted to say to you guys. I had value that I wanted to provide outside of just sitting back and always asking questions. So I decided to take a pause from interviewing people and just doing solo, one-on-one, me and the camera talking to you guys. And one of the first ones I ever did was one of the strange, if not the strangest podcasts I've ever done. Because we as a company were in strange times. COVID, we were struggling, and we needed a change, and I knew we needed a change. And of course, I love Iceland. I love Vikings, and I read something, and it made an impact on me. And so this was the start of one of the strangest interviews I've ever done. It's called Kraken, Angry Sushi, and Iceland. What the fuck is RJ talking about?
Today's episode is either going to be the most epic episode ever, or it is just going to absolutely suck ass. And I'm going to deserve those 3-star ratings that I always say I don't accept. So I did remember, though, that I'm changing this to the beginning of the episode. So if you like today's episode, which this is a risk because there's a good chance the majority of you are going to hate it and think this is pretty stupid. But if you do like it, please give me a 5-star review on iTunes so more people can hear this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube and you're seeing me dressed up like a Viking right now, drinking Icelandic beer, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, let me know that you liked it. All right, so today's episode I named Kraken, Angry Sushi, and Iceland. What the fuck is RJ talking about? So I wrote a post on Facebook the other day, and I want to give some reference to it and explain what my purpose behind it was, and then kind of get into the deeper meaning and kind of my thoughts after I posted this. Okay, so I'm going to start off by reading my post from Facebook, and then we'll break it down from there. So the post says, "Be patient. It will all come with the cold water. So I try and lay my head in water to know what to do. The window weather is played out, and it's time to bite the molar and realize it's time to get on with the butter. Blind are the bookless men, and I will not accept that fate. You may think I'm totally out driving, but I'm looking forward to taking them all to the bakery. It'll be the raisin at the end of the hot dog. If you don't know, then know you come completely from the mountains, but never forget, quote, the Kraken stirs and 10 billion sushi dinners cry out for vengeance."
So I go into 30 minutes of detail about what that whole statement, paragraph meant. Essentially, I was crying out for help, and I realized there was no one that was going to come help but us. We had to dig ourselves out of the trench that we had put ourselves in. And that was me coming to grips in that post, in that podcast. And that's what we did. We've been doing for years now. And it was all in good fun. The Viking suit, the post. The YouTube video did well. I don't know about the podcast. I don't know about the Facebook post. I don't know if many people cared. But that's what I learned about the podcast and the Titanium Vault is that you guys that listen to this podcast, y'all show up every episode, no matter what. You guys consistently support, and you send me messages and emails, and you reach out and you say, hey, man, that episode, maybe it was an episode or a moment in an episode that I didn't think was impactful. You say that was the transparency of talking about the struggles and not just these highlight victory real moments. And you saying, hey, the raw, real you, RJ, is what I want. And so I became more comfortable in what I was doing with both YouTube videos and with the podcast. And there was a couple of moments that really helped, one of which was winning the 2021 Closers Olympics and getting connected with the great Pat Hilton. And the first video that Pat Hilton ever made me was this epic highlight reel of me winning the Closers Olympics. Brace yourself. It's only 10 seconds long.
He's got the verbal agreement. He's got the ROI set up, and there's the close. RJ Bates the third has done it. The ref steps in. It's over.
Man, I honestly, it's so good. I think we need to watch it again. What do you think? Oh, yeah. We're watching it again.
He's got the verbal agreement. He's got the ROI set up, and there's the close. RJ Bates the third has done it. The ref steps in. It's over.
It's just beautiful. Pat Hilton reached out to me and he said, hey, man, you've got all these videos. You've done the 50-50-50. You just won the Closers Olympics, and it was epic. And I've got this business where I can edit your videos. Can I please edit your videos? I want to be a part of your team. I said, okay, let's do it. So he starts editing these videos, right, from the 50-50-50. Hello, this is RJ. Hello, this is RJ. He made that what it was. Every video started with, hello, this is RJ. Why? Because I was doing SMS marketing, and so all these calls were inbound. And what ended up happening is it opened up opportunities. More people saw my content than ever before. Instagram, TikTok. I didn't even have a TikTok before Pat reached out. TikTok, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts. It was going everywhere. And what did this open up? It opened up an opportunity for Mr. Steve Trang to reach out to me. And he says, hey, man, I've got this great idea. It's like ESPN's Around the Horn / Pardon the Interruption. Okay? And it's going to be four of us. It's going to be me. It's going to be you. It's going to be Chris Jefferson. It's going to be Eric Brewer. And I'm like, that sounds great. Who the hell is Eric Brewer? No, I'm just playing. I knew who Eric was. But he said it's going to be a game show. We're going to have 45 seconds to answer our questions, and then there'll be a winner at the end. I said, man, that sounds great. I didn't know if it was really going to take off or if we were going to do it for like a month. But we've been doing it for over a year now. And I consider those three men, plus Leon G. Barnes and Jimmy Vreeland and our host, Matthew Potter, the show has continuously evolved. Some of my closest friends in real estate investing. And now, instead of just releasing Titanium Vault interviews on a weekly basis, you now get 2 interviews on a weekly basis because you get the episode of Pardon the Disruption every single Friday. This is by far my most favorite and, quite frankly, the best answer ever given in Pardon the Disruption history.
Over to RJ Bates. Which Avenger would you pick?
Okay. The thumbnail said Avengers, and I dedicated 45 minutes of my life for my answer, so I'm giving you my whole answer.
I love it.
My team is Iron Man, Money and Innovation, Wolverine, he's a warrior that can't die, Namor because of his aquatic abilities, and then you would help control 71% of the planet, Vision because he controls an Infinity Stone and extreme intelligence, Thor, he's a god, Doctor Strange, Time Stone, sorcerer skills, Deadpool, can't die, almost as funny as me, and Ghost Rider because he's essentially immortal and can sense evil. If I only have to pick one, it's Doctor Strange. Time Stone, I can screw up as many times as I want, rewind, do it again, and I'm good. Doctor Strange.
That is the single-handed best answer I have seen on this program right now.
I'm actually going to.
I mean, I agree. That was Weasel at the beginning. He was our host. Listen, Pardon the Disruption. It's live. It's got its own YouTube channel now, Pardon the Disruption. But like I said, it goes live on Friday mornings. I release every episode on my YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just absolutely love those guys. And we go into great detail on some of the most trending topics as well as real estate topics. And I love the fact that we all have different opinions about all of the different topics. Even sometimes when I get the questions, and I'm like, that seems like that's going to be a boring one. Bam! It's a banger of a question. Speaking of a banger, this is one of my most favorite interviews I've ever done. The sales goat, Eric Klein. I met Eric down at Wholesaling Live in San Antonio. I got to know him and Tony. Really fell in love with like their energy and their spirit towards sales and closing and talking to sellers and having a process. But the funny thing about it is their process is so different than my process. And at this point in time, I am super confident in our process, and so is he. And as we should be, because the results speak. And so we did over an hour-long podcast going back and forth between each different styles and why his style and why my style and how they're very similar, just a few tweaks. But at the end, I had to ask him, what the hell is the sales goat? Because I love logos. I love branding. How did Sales Goat come about? And what is Sales Goat? Because I see it. So obviously this is your education. Is that what this is?
Yeah. So the bat came about with my son 2 years ago was Babe Ruth for freaking Halloween. And he brought his bat into my office and I started carrying it around and there was a few pictures with me having the bat. So that organically happened.
I love it.
The goat was, so I went to a few masterminds and events and I was like, this industry lacks something and it's a sales process. I'm like, if there's one gaping hole that I could fill and I could fill quick, it's me claiming myself to be the guy.
Right.
But the GOAT, GOAT, is for the greatest onboarding acquisition training.
Oh, bro, that is so good.
Yeah, dude.
It is one of the better branding out there, especially what it stands for. And I love what Eric stands for with his training. He's right. This industry did lack that. And it was an honor to have him on the podcast, just like so many other guests. We're already at the 45-minute mark of today's episode. So I can only share so many. But we've had other greats. We've had Jerry Norton, Robert Winsley, Chris Jefferson. I could keep on naming them over and over and over. I mean, so many influential characters in the real estate investing space have taken their time to be a guest on the Titanium Vault. And I am honored to have each and every single person that has come on. Thank you for sharing with me Thank you for sharing with the audience. And it's crazy to think about. I saw this. The titanium vault. I don't know why I can't say it now. I can say titanium all the time. Titanium vault has been listened to in 127 countries, 5,572 different cities. Here's the top 10 countries. This is kind of interesting. I was looking at this today. I was kind of shocked by this. Of course, USA and Canada, 1 and 2. Then Germany, number 3. I'm wondering if that's like soldiers, like our military over there listening. But it's Germany, France, United Kingdom, Australia, Philippines. Love our VAs over there. Know you guys are helping out. Mexico, Brazil, and Israel. I know we've got a ton of people over in Israel that listen to the podcast because they've reached out. I've actually done a podcast with the Israel followers. So love that. The one downside to the podcast is that sometimes there's content that is created on the YouTube channel that doesn't make it on the podcast because it doesn't fit the format. Well, great news. Today is the 6-year anniversary of the Titanium Vault, and it's my show, so I can do whatever the hell I want. There was a moment on Batch TV where someone asked me, RJ, how do you do acquisitions every single day? How do you get kicked in the teeth? You know, it's how do you get up for that? So for the next 6 minutes, because the passion that I spoke with here, and I'm going to just warning, there's explicit language coming. So if you're listening with the kids, pause it and come back or put in the AirPods, okay? Because I live by these words. That's why I'm so passionate about the Closers Olympics and Wholesaling Live and the 50-50-50 and showing people how to do acquisitions live and to talk to people, because that's what we do. We help solve people's problems by buying the real estate, and that starts with acquisitions. Acquisitions is your business's heart. Here's my response. Acquisitions is my heart right here. Without it, we ain't got nothing. We have to do this. I don't enjoy doing this. You think I enjoy talking to that guy in Montana that cussed me out for 15 minutes saying he was going to sue me and blah, 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 all this? No, I don't enjoy this. What I enjoy is running a business. I enjoy having people in my office that are changing their lives, changing their families' lives. I enjoy the fact that my son is to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to hockey camps whenever he needs to because he wants to be an NHL player. I said, son, you want to go to the NHL? I'll give you every opportunity to go to the NHL. You know what that means? I have to get the fuck over the fact that I don't like talking to sellers. So I talk to them and I get really fucking good at it. That's why I'm good at it, because I decided I want whatever I want for my family, whatever I want for my life. I have a purpose. I have a vision. That's why. I don't enjoy doing this. I enjoy living for the purpose, for the vision of what I want. That's why I'm good at this. That's it. No one taught me how to do this. I didn't go to any training. No one taught me how to do this. You know what taught me how to do this? Getting my teeth kicked in, getting on the phone with a seller and not knowing what the fuck to say, and then failing over and over and saying, okay, there's a problem. I'm not going to do that one again. And then when I finally decided I don't need to do anything else other than be myself. It's literally talking to someone. Do you have a hard time ordering Whataburger when you drive through the drive-thru and saying, I want a number 5 and I want a Coke? No, that's easy. It's the same thing on this. I would like to buy a house. That's all you're saying. That's why we went nationwide. Anywhere. We can fuck up 50 times a day, but if we succeed 1 to 3 times a day, we're living the life of our dreams. What does Sam say? Sam, it don't matter how much we spend on marketing, and you don't know how many deals you got. Me either, brother. I don't know how much I'm going to spend on marketing this month, and I don't know how many deals I got, but it's a lot. And I can promise you this, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars that are done in this company, and it's going to be based around the fact that we no longer give a fuck about getting on the phone and doing things that make us uncomfortable, because those are fear-based decisions, and we eliminate those from our lives. We don't do that anymore. That's not a part of who we are. We have a purpose, we have a vision, and nothing is going to stand in our way to do that. That is why I'm good at acquisition. So it wasn't a dumb question because I completely understand where you're coming from. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to say I don't have fear anymore. It's uncomfortable to get on a phone with someone in the middle of Connecticut. I've never even been to Connecticut. One of my visions, one of my goals that's on my list is to visit all 50 states. I might be buying a property in a state that I've never been in today. It's uncomfortable to have that conversation. But you know what's even more uncomfortable? It's having to tell your kids that they can't have something that they want, that they desire, an opportunity that they need because you can't provide it for them. They're not being able to open up an opportunity for team members to come in and be a part of your family because you can't afford it, because you're not good enough to do that. That is what was uncomfortable. Now, being able to sit here and open up the opportunity for whoever I want, whenever I want. I walk up to a 19-year-old kid at the event, say, come on, let's go. Come to my office. Don't be a punk ass bitch. Come here. I'm going to teach you how to do this. Now sit right here and click this button over and over and over again. And yeah, you're going to have to do some uncomfortable conversations, but you're going to get what you want. You're going to get deals. You're going to make life-changing money. He's 19 years old. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He's locking up deals. So I hope that answered your question. And on that note, I don't know what else I could possibly give you on today's episode that would be more impactful than what I just said to you. If you need to, go back and listen to it again, because what I'm saying to you will change your business. It'll change everything about your life if you truly embrace it. If this hurt your feelings, well, that's okay, because they need to be hurt. Okay? I'm not here to cater to your feelings. I'm not here to cater to anybody's feelings. I'm here to change lives. Mine, everybody in my teams, and anybody that wants to jump on here. There's 52 people that have decided to jump on here today. Why 52? I see other people that jump on lives that have next to zero content in them. Hundreds of people. They want to watch. They want to watch there and sit. I've seen 12,000 people watch my video where I sat there and I talked about what I did. 12,000 people watched that. But 50 people will sit here and watch me actually do it. You know why? Because they don't actually want the change. They want to say they want the change. They want to tell their wife, I listened to a podcast today that was really impactful. They don't want to sit here and actually watch me do it and apply it to their own business. That's why half the people cancel their batch accounts that have signed up. Why? Because I gave them a hammer. You know what a hammer is? It's a tool that you could do a lot of things with. And then they said, shit, I actually have to use the hammer. I actually have to work. I have to actually do this. Those are punk ass bitches. That's why they cancel. So if you're one of those, shame on you. Shame on you for being handed such a great tool like batch leads and then deciding to go do something else. Stop searching for unicorns. They don't exist. There's not one out there that's going to acquire deals for you. There's not one out there that's going to make magical things happen inside of your business other than you when you decide that you want to do that. That's all I got for you. Hope y'all have a great week. Next week, we're going to be in New York. I'm pumped up. I'm going to go have fun with my team for the rest of the day. And I'm not mad at you, Bosco. I love that question. I hope this made a difference for you. And I hope that you are able to truly embrace becoming great at acquisitions, because it's questions like this and answers like this that can change the impact of your life and your business. So go make it happen, Bubba. I wanted to share that with you guys because otherwise it would never make it onto the podcast. And I still live by those words. I love what we do here. I love the acquisition side of things because it is what fuels and feeds everyone involved with titanium, and the same with your business. And I set out 6 years ago to create this podcast to give back to the community and hopefully change lives. If you've gotten anything from this podcast, the Titanium Vault, over the past 6 years, leave me a comment, send me a DM, let me know. It means the world. I want to know to keep going and to keep giving on this format if it's making an impact for you. I also say, hey, go back and listen to these interviews. These 13 interviews that I put on here were some of the best. But honestly, they all had value. They all had purpose. That's the reason why I've put them out there for you guys. Thank you guys so much for the support. 127 countries, 6 years, 230 plus episodes. We're going to keep it going. Thank you guys. And remember, we're the only podcast out there that only accepts 5-star reviews. So if you haven't left us one by now, leave us one. If you want to give us less, go somewhere else. We only accept 5-star reviews. Thank you, guys.